Today you're going to hopefully get the hang of pinning. This is going to be your biggest struggle is actually pinning today. It's going to feel very weird to you, and just trust me, follow the way I'm doing it and it'll become more natural. What I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the front. You could start with the back. It doesn't matter which one you start with. There's no real order. And both the front and the back get draped in an almost identical way. Come on, you're not going to be able to see back there. I'm doing really small little things, so get friendly, get to know each other. Yeah, now we're talking. All right, so I'm going to be starting off with the front, and again, the back goes up almost the exact same way. It's just the darts are different sizes, but everything else about it's the same. I'm going to start up here with this first little mark that was 1 1/4 inch down. That I've labeled it my center front waist. I'm pinning that location first. Okay. Now I'm going to be really efficient with my pins. I never have enough, it seems like, and so I'm going to make sure that each pin matters. What that means is, if I just randomly put a pin here, like that, to hold this up, and I start draping, maybe I need to tug something over here, look what would happen. Okay? It's going to pull out. The safest thing to do with pinning is to do something called cross pinning, where you pin at one angle and you pin at another, and no matter what direction you pull, that's not going anywhere. I don't tend to cross pin because I never have enough pins to do that. And I like to work fast, and I don't like to have to pull 2 out. So if you only have 1 pin available and not 2, the direction we're going to put the pin, imagine it pointing to your work. Okay, so the point of my pin is pointing to the rest of the work. The head of the pin is away from the work. Okay, so I'm pointing to the bulk of the fabric. When I go to the hip here, I'm going to pin again, and I'm pointing to the rest of the work. If I point to the work, it's stable. I can pull that and it's not going anywhere. If I pin the other way, pointing away from the work, it'll just come right off. Okay? So you can certainly cross pin, or if you're conserving pins or whatever, point to the work. Now, notice I didn't sink it all the way in there. A lot of people think it's only secure if you push it all the way in. It's not. You can just put in about 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch. We also don't need to sink it into the paper mache itself of the form, just through the top layer of fabric. Okay? So I've put a pin at the center front waist. I found my HBL line, and I put a pin here at the center front as well. Don't cross over the center front. Don't have a gap. Have it be right along the center front. I'm going to stick one down at the bottom just for luck. Okay. Now this line that I've drawn in, the purple one, not the black one, should follow the bottom of the tape. And that's why I asked you guys to buy black tape so that you could see through your muslin. I want you to line that bottom of the tape up with the line that you drew. Okay? It should want to do that. If your tape is put on horizontal, parallel with the floor, and your line is drawn in perpendicular with the center front, this should be no problem getting your line to line up with the tape. Okay? This is also a good double check. This little hip arc mark here should land at your side seam. If it's not landing at your side seam, one of your measurements is off. Either you measured the form wrong in the first place, or you marked the muslin wrong. If yours doesn't match, now would be a great time to take it off and see where the problem is. If it does match, great, you're ready to move on. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to drape this skin tight first. That's why you have 2 markings there. I'm going to pin it skin tight measurement first. I'm going to drape it skin tight, and then we're going to add in that 1/2 inch of ease. Okay? So ignore the side seam line for now. We're going to pin first at that hip arc mark. Okay? Then you remember this little X up here? Position that X, or the line that the X is on, position it at the side seam. The X may or may not hit the waistline. That's no big deal. The idea is just to get that line on the side seam. And again, this is temporary. Okay, and you see I just pointed to my work. My pin went that way towards the work. Okay, what do you think all this is going to be? Yeah, all this excess is going to get folded into two different darts. Okay, so our very first dart is going to land at the princess line. Okay, and it's going to land at this intersection here, the bottom of the tape at the princess line. Again, make sure that you've got plenty of pins so your waist tape doesn't move while we're working. And I'm going to smooth over from the center front, and I'm going to find where that princess line intersection is. It's nice to have a little bit of fingernail going on so you can run it in there and feel it. Okay, if you can't feel it, peel it back and peek. We want to find that intersection. And I'm going to be doing it in pen so that you guys can see, but I don't want anybody using pen up on the form. Please use pencil. Okay, especially don't use Sharpie. Sharpie bleeds through and marks up the form. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to put a dotted line, just little dots, dot, 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 all along the bottom of the waist tape. Okay, and I didn't scribble. They're clean little dot-to-dot lines. And at the princess intersection, I'm going to put a T. The top of the T is at the bottom of the tape, and the center of the T is along the princess line. So you see that T? T, 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 T. Okay. This is going to be where our first dart leg location is. This will eventually be marked with a notch on our pattern. Okay. So I'm going to now pin here. Now the book tells you to slash the fabric down to that line. We will be doing some slashing on here. My guess is many of you won't need to slash the center front. When I get to a point where I need to slash, I'll show you. My muslin is laying pretty flat. There's not a lot of buckling or puckering, so I don't need to do any extra special work. It's lying flat on its own right there. There are going to be places on this skirt where you just can't get it to lie flat, and slashing will fix that. Okay, so my very first dart, and actually both of my darts on my center front, the dart intake, the amount that we're going to sew together, is 5/8 of an inch. And I'm following the book exactly. All size 8 standard blocks are going to be 5/8 of an inch in the front. So with my ruler, I'm going to measure over 5/8 of an inch, and I'm going to put a line, a vertical line. Okay? I'm not putting a T here because I'm not sure where the top edge of that dart is, but I know the width. Okay? I know where the top edge of the one to the left is. I don't know where the top edge to the right is. This waistline is going to curve up.
I'm sorry, I missed how far in is that line?
It's 5/8 inch
from the T.
From the princess line. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fold this dart up, and it's going to take up some of this excess. We have a lot of excess here, but we're going to spread it out. We're going to put 2 darts, and then we're going to put some more ease in this waist. Okay. So our first dart, let me do an anatomy of a dart chart up here so we know the vocabulary that I'm using. Okay, our dart is going to have 2 notches at the top, eventually, and there's going to be 5/8 of an inch of space that's going to get taken up and sewn together. Okay, our front dart, the book says do 3 to 3.5 inches. We're going to call it 3 inches. We're all going to do 3 inches in here. So the length of our dart, the length of our dart is 3 inches. Okay, so here's our width, here's our length. Yeah.
That's like the standard measurements
That we're going to be doing.
skirts?
Yep.
Okay.
And if we're doing custom fit for different people, some people have higher hips or lower hips or bigger waists or smaller waists, and there's some wiggle room in here, and that's why the book says 3 to 3.5. 3 inches will work fine for all of our dress forms. And I just want to standardize it in this class just so we don't have questions. Okay? So we're going to go 3 inches and 5/8. What we're going to be doing, so you remember over here we have our center front, and we've got a nice kind of squared off area there, right? We're going to put, and this is on grain, if I were to mark arrows on here showing where the grain line is, and we're all clear with grain line, should go over that on Monday. We're going to be going parallel with our selvage edge. We're going to be putting the center of the dart on grain. So let's say that's 4 inches from here to here. It's going to be 4 inches from here to here. The center of the dart is going to be on grain. We're going to be putting our dart legs won't be centered. So if I connected this to here and this to here, these guys are called dart legs. We've got 2 of them, here and here. The dart legs are not on grain. Just the center is on grain, okay? What do we think this guy's called right here?
Sharp point?
I call it a vanishing point. Vanishing point. Previous teachers you may have had might have called it a termination point. I'm going to be calling it a vanishing point in this class. So this dart is going to vanish at 3 inches, and the vanishing point will be on grain. It'll be at the center part of that dart. So we don't want any tipping darts one way or the other. Okay? So how are we going to get this on center? The book has a really handy-dandy trick to get us closer to being on center in the first place. And I think the trick is the bottom of page. Bottom of page 45, it shows this little trick. I love these dressmaker pins with the teeny tiny heads. It's the way I was trained. I was not allowed to use these ball head ones at all. But I usually always keep a giant like hat pin on my pin cushion. And I use this as a little bit of a tool. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this hat pin to help me out. I'm going to fold the T, fold on the center line of the T. Okay, fold on that line. And I'm going to match the center line of that T to the opposite dart leg. So I'm going to fold over so that they're lined up with each other, and I'm going to pin them together at the top. Okay, they're pinned together, they're not pinned to the form. So the center of the T and the line are now folded and matching together. Now notice what happens when I fold on the T and I fold to the other mark. What direction is that dart intake fold going? It's going towards the center. If I fold on that first line to the second, it'll automatically press my dart the right way. In this class, unless there's a stylization change that we're going to make on purpose, we're going to fold all of our darts, the intake, that dart intake, towards the center in the front and towards the center in the back. All darts that go vertical. There are going to be some darts that we have that are horizontal, and that's a different rule, and we'll talk about that later. Okay, so I folded and I've pinned it at the top. Notice how I pinned it. What direction?
Towards the
Okay, so it's perpendicular to this fold line. So do we know the word perpendicular? I'm going to use that word a lot. So it's at a 90-degree angle to the fold. We're going to be folding our darts perpendicular. Okay, and I'm folding it and pinning it. I'm pinning it so I'm pinning through. Let's say this is folded. Okay, so this is my little dart intake here. And here's my T, right? I am folding through all the layers. There's 1, 2, 3 layers. And I'm pinning through all three at the same time with the head of the pin going into all three and then out